welcome everybody to the Platform Engineering webinar. I'm the speaker. My name is Turja Chaudhuri. I'm actually also a Platform Engineering ambassador. So I also watch a lot of these webinars. Really glad to be kind of speaking on one of this. So the purpose of this talk is this concept of platform engineering maturity, right? So there is this concept that initially kind of started from the CNCF platforms working group. I'm also a member of that working group, and they published a white paper, right, on how your maturity should look like. And the whole talk is kind of based on that with a little bit of learnings from my end. So I am actually the platform success leader at a very big platform team in my company. So I've been dealing with platforms for quite a while now, right? Especially on the perspective of how to get the rest of the firm adopt the platform. So I know a bit on this sort of topics. As I said, I'm also a platform engineering community ambassador. I'm part of the CNCF platform working group, so I work with a lot of people on this sort of topics. So this is not only the maturity model, but also some of the key learnings. Again, a disclaimer: this is just me speaking and not and representing any official views of the company. This is more like my learnings and community sort of stuff. No endorsement, nothing. So the overall agenda is very simple, right? Again, we need to set some context on what this thing is on platform so that all of us are saying the same thing when we use the term platform. Then we will shift gears to the platform engineering maturity model, and finally some closing thoughts. I see in the chat color somebody is saying that I see just a black screen. Dirk is saying that. I just wanted to check everybody else can see my screen, right?
I can see the presentation, but maybe everyone could share with us
Okay,
the chat.
perfect. Jay
Yeah.
says so. I think then Dirk, you can.
Maybe, yeah, Dirk, maybe you can try to rejoin the call and maybe then you will see the screen.
Perfect. Okay. So let's get started in the interest of time, right? So again, the first section is what is platform engineering overall, right? So if you see this thing from Ivan Bocher, right? He's one of the principal architects at ThoughtWorks. He used to lead the platform engineering team at ThoughtWorks. So he says a platform is a digital platform, is a foundation of self-service APIs, tools, services, knowledge, and support, which are arranged as a compelling internal product. Then different delivery teams will make use of that platform to deliver product features at a higher pace. This is a very interesting definition because this tells a lot of things, right? So one of the things he says is this word self-service. So a platform has to be self-service. If you are providing something and to consume it, you have to raise a ticket. You might still call it a platform, but I will say it's a shared service, IT shared service, not a platform. Then second thing is see, this word called internal product. This is also very important. Platforms are internal. Technology platforms are internal. Business platforms, which are built on top of technology platforms, can also be external, right? Again, you can sell. There are companies like Humanitech which are selling this internal platform itself as a product so that you can embrace it. But the person who is buying that product is still using it internally. So the customer of an internal platform is the developers, basically the engineers in the organization who will then use your platform and build a product. So as you can see, autonomous delivery teams, these are basically the actual teams who are building solutions slash products for clients, business facing solutions. So, and again, the client can be an internal client as well, but they will use this platform and components of the platform, right, to deliver features at a higher pace. So the go to market speed will increase and all of that because they don't have to build everything themselves. That is the whole idea of the whole thing with platforms. So for example, in the company that I represent, right, before having something like this, just for workflows, right, for very simple workflows, we used to have, let's say, 4 to 5 sort of ways of creating workflows. I have seen people have companies, I have advised clients where they have 3 to 4 different ways of doing antivirus checking on ingested files. Do we really need 4 ways to do antivirus checking on an ingested file, right? When somebody is joining our company, does he really need to know 4 different ways, or can we just have a single way, offer it as a platform offering, and the rest of the organization kind of leverages that. So if that is the concept of a platform, then what is the concept of platform engineering? Basically, platform engineering is the concept of building a platform, nothing else. So with this concept of platform engineering, what has emerged is this concept of platform teams. If anybody of you have read this book called Team Topologies, so in Team Topologies, the authors, they mention again different types of teams, but there is two concepts which is very important. One is called stream aligned teams. When I say streamed aligned teams, these are the teams which are building the actual business facing products. And then there is a platform team. The platform team by itself is not building a business facing product. They are building technology assets with the whole thought process that my customer is a developer, and the developer will use that technology asset to build a business facing asset that I will sell. Because at the end of the day, we have to sell. As a company, we have to sell something to earn money. The platform is team is basically the customer of the platform team is internal. The rest of the organization is a customer, not the external client in 99% of the cases. And those internal customers will use that platform offerings, the offerings from that platform, and then build a business facing product that the customer will, the company will sell, let's say, right? So with that thought process, this is how Gartner is showing this. This is interesting to some extent, right? So Gartner is actually showing this one, they are calling this the digital platform. So if you see digital platform managed by the platform team, right? And then this is the stream aligned teams I'm talking about, the product and service teams. This is where most of the organization will work. So if, for example, in our organization, for example, we have, let's say, 75,000 developers, but the platform team is roughly, let's say, 500 to 1,000, roughly, right? So what is the rest of the 74,000 people doing? They're building stuff for the actual customer, actual client, right? Which clients will build, client will develop. But this platform team, this 500 to 1,000 people, right? They are building technology components. They're building observability solution. They're building common design patterns for, let's say, ingesting data, cleaning data, classifying data, workflow tools. So as you can see, all of the components within a digital platform are reusable. That is the whole idea. Then you provide knowledge also, not only the offering, you also provide knowledge on how to use that offering, and you make it available via self-service, via some sort of a developer portal, so that anybody, any developer can go and then, let's say, go in there and consume a starter kit or something. Or X as a service is kind of, think of it like you have exposed also some of these things as an API, so that other teams can kind of include it as part of their bigger tool chain. Again, interestingly, Gartner also shows the infrastructure platform as a little bit different from the digital platform, but in most companies, I have not seen this. We have normally seen, okay, only one platform team kind of manages, but in a way, you can think that the infrastructure platform is mostly the infra part. Let's say giving you a cloud subscription, Azure subscription, AWS account, Google project, those kind of things, right? The bare metal stuff from the cloud provider. And then the digital platform is kind of sprinkling higher level abstractions on top of that. So what do I mean by that is, let's say, for example, a very simple use case in many companies is ingesting data from a client, right? So a client needs to give you data, you ingest the data, and then you finally use that data somewhere. But it's very surprising that having a secure way to transfer data in itself is a challenge. So let's say you are a developer and your boss says, this is a project, you need to ingest this 5 gigabytes of data from this client X. And the client says, okay, man, can you tell me where should I give you the data? How should I give you? I should not email you, right? What is your way? Very likely your enterprise doesn't have a very easy way to do this. Even the simple task is very complicated in an enterprises. So then, for example, as a platform team, you might offer some sort of an SFTP as a service. So the value add there is that you will run the SFTP service. You will ensure that it is secure, it is aligned, everything, right? You will ensure that the data only stays in that SFTP server for, let's say, 7 days. Then you decommission the data, right? All of those things is the platform thing's job, platform person's job. But then that is a part of the digital platform. You are providing a higher level abstraction. You're providing secure data movement as a service, right? Data movement as a service, data ingestion as a service. But to run that SFTP service, you might need a VM or a cluster of VMs or an auto scaling set of VMs. That VMs might come from that infrastructure platform. Again, that's how you can think of it. But in a, just to make it simple, everything which is a platform team is a platform team. They will build reusable assets, which should be self service, and the rest of the organization should consume them when it makes sense to build platforms. So, if you see some of the components of the platform engineering, could be a developer control plane, a delivery plane, an observability plane, a security plane. Again, these are standard stuff, right? That normally you will expect any platform team to do. I will not go through a lot. But this view is important because I think this is important for us to understand and kind of set the context. As you can see, these are the stream aligned teams. So this could be a payroll team, this could be an invoice team, right? This could be some sort of a e-commerce team. These are the different business product teams, let's call them, who are actually building business products which clients will use. Now the client can be an internal client, external client, whatever, but these are actual products, business products, let's call them, which are delivering a business value that a customer, an actual real user, is consuming. But the platform team is different. The platform team is managing the platform. The platform is providing technical assets, technical components. It's not providing business facing components, it's providing technical components which the business facing development team, the development team that is building the business facing product, will use those components to build the product. So let's say there are three products and all of them needs an antivirus solution because all of them are ingesting data from clients. So rather than each of them building an antivirus solution on their own, the platform team might have created an antivirus solution and offered it as a self-service API or something, right? So the platform team manages the antivirus solution end-to-end support, L1, L2, L3 support, everything, patches that solution, ensures everything is perfect, aligned with the company's in security standards, everything. And now the good thing is the rest of the product teams, they really don't care, right? They can just go to the platform team, consume the antivirus service, call the API, do the checking, done. They don't have to invest in the antivirus offering because the platform team is managing that. That is the overall idea. I'm taking antivirus as an example. Our platform can have multiple services starting from, as I said, data ingestion, data cataloging, synthetic data, Gen AI, many things it can provide. This is a similar sort of view, also kind of shows the same thing. As you can see, application developers who are building business facing features, they will consume the platform via some sort of an API or self service portal. This is what this is trying to show. So again, very important at this stage that we all are very clear that there are essentially there are multiple teams. If you read the team topologies book, it's an awesome book. You can read it, you will get much more nuances on this, but I'm just giving at a very high level. At least there are two teams. There is one team who is building business facing applications. There is a team called platform team which is building technical assets. The business facing team, the team who is building business facing applications, they are also a development team. They also have engineers, developers, product managers, but the only difference is they're building business facing products. They will use, where it makes sense, platform offerings. Rather than building those platform offerings again and again, they will use those platform offerings, right, to build their product, so that they don't have to build the same thing again and again. This is the concept of platform engineering. But then you might say, okay, platform engineering is DevOps, right? Again, I have a separate talk I did just 2 weeks back on this concept, why it's not the same thing, right? But yes, there are some sort of, so the best way to understand this is, in this view, a DevOps engineer is needed both in this product team and also in the platform team. So the platform team might also have DevOps engineers, they might have architects, they might have full level, full stack engineers, whatever. Similarly, a product team will also have those roles. So DevOps is not going anywhere. Many people say DevOps is dead, DevOps is dead, but the whole business, if you see the business value of DevOps, the addressable market is only growing. So DevOps as a whole is not going away. But yes, there is this concept of platform engineering and platform team. For example, in our platform team, we also employ engineers who we call DevOps engineers. They help us manage the dev plus ops, basically the DevOps of the platform, because everything in the platform is also a product, right? So there is this concept of platform as a product. Whatever you're building within a platform is also product. The business products are also products. So the business product will need a DevOps engineer, just like I always used to know. But now these DevOps engineers and the business team, they need to be skilled in how to use the platform. That is the only difference. So DevOps is not going anywhere. There is not a lot of overlap per se. Only thing, a DevOps engineer who is within the platform team, they need to understand how to build the platform offerings. And a DevOps engineer who is in the business facing teams, this product teams, this high level product teams I'm showing here, a DevOps engineer in that product team needs to be very good at knowing what are the platform offerings, how to use them, when to use them, how to orchestrate them. Those are the things. Again, it is not only me who is saying that platform engineering is important or something. If you see, Gartner consistently is saying that out of the top 10 technology trends, as you can see here, the fourth important technology trend is platform engineering. And the most important thing which everybody is saying, right, is that platform engineering reduces the cognitive load. What does that mean? So in a way, this concept that shift left, shift left. So when I started my career, let's say 14 years back, right, we did not care a lot about distributed tracing, this and that. No, we just used to log into our laptop. At that time, I used to work in Java. We used to log into my Eclipse IDE, do some code, and push the code into a source control, which at that time I used to use Perforce. My day was done, right? Obviously, the CI pipeline and everything used to run, and I used to check whether it fails or not. But I did not have to do so much. I did not have to know Kubernetes, YAML, ingress controllers, how it works, DNS, everything. But now, if you see a developer, right, we call them full stack engineers. But really, is there anything called a full stack engineer? Is it possible for an engineer to know all of these things, starting from, let's say, app architecture to infra architecture to Kubernetes YAML files to starting from observability, right? It's like too much, right? To an extent, right? So basically, the idea of cognitive load is that we are putting too much pressure on developers today. We are calling them full stack engineers, but at the end of the day, we are putting too much pressure on them, right? Over and above, right? So they're just not doing development, which is what their core thing. They're doing many other things just to manage the setup, right? Warner Vergels, right, the Amazon CTO, said that you build it, you run it, which was a very nice way to say stuff. But in reality, is it really possible, right? Is it possible for the same guy who is writing Java code or .NET code to also know Grafana metrics end to end, or also know how a DNS, let's say, is getting resolved with private links? It's complicated, right? It's not a very easy thing to do. With a platform, this thing is supposed to be a little better, and we have seen some good metrics within our enterprise as well. So at least now you have some other team who is kind of doing some of the stuff that you are trying to do, and in a way they're exposing their work as an API. So you just consume the API. You really don't need to get into the depth of everything that they're doing. They're managing some part of it. You still need to take care of your application, and you still need to know when, let's say, the platform breaks, why is it breaking. You need to be able to see a few traces and stuff like that. Observability is still very important, but at least some part of the stuff you can cascade, right, to the platform team, right? So you can take some of this cognitive load that is on your head, you can shift some of that load to the platform team, right, so to speak. So that is the whole idea. And the best thing is platform engineering pays well. It pays a little bit better also than normal DevOps. This is an analysis that was done by the platform engineering org, and as you can see, right, it pays a little bit better than, because it's a little bit emerging field. And when I say it's a little bit emerging field, if you see, most of the platform engineering orgs as of 2023 were only, let's say, 0 to 2 years. The platform teams, right? It's relatively new, this concept, right? Now everybody's talking about it. So when we started roughly in 2018-19, it was still relatively new. Now in 2025, it's much more well known, but still new. If you compare to enterprise IT, if you compare to DevOps, if you compare to AWS S3, which released in 2006, this concept is still new. But just because it is new doesn't mean that people are not flocking to it. So this was a survey that was done by Google Cloud. As you can see, they surveyed a lot of products. Only 8% of the products said we have no plans to implement platform engineering. The rest, 92%, are saying we will adopt platform engineering in some way or the other. So 24% are saying I am already doing it extensively. 12% are saying I will evaluate, but only 8 companies. So if you compare this in numbers, out of 1,000 companies, only 80 companies are saying, guys, I don't want to do platform engineering. The rest 920 companies are saying, I am already doing it or in some sort of a place to do it. So again, that's why I'm saying platform engineering is important. It's important to understand this concept of a platform team versus a normal business facing DevOps team. What are the different nuances? A platform team is an internal team. They are supposed to provide technology assets that the rest of the developers of the firm can consume to build client facing products. Again, I am simplifying to a bit, that this should help. But at the same time, if you see, even though platform engineering is supposed to kind of be cool and all, but at the same time, they also have a lot of problems, right? These are some of the platform engineering pain points. So one of the pain points, for example, is standardizing. Standardization is a problem, right? It's not a very easy thing in a very big company to standardize. So just as an example, right, let's say, for example, as a platform team, you say, okay, I will make GitHub my source control. but let's say somebody is using GitLab within the organization, somebody is using, let's say, Azure repos. Even though all of them are Git repos, they're different vendors. So just because you say GitHub is now the standard, doesn't mean everybody will just leave their job and from tomorrow start migrating to GitHub. Enterprise IT doesn't work that way, right? So it takes a lot of effort, lot of planning to integrate different tools, right? And there's a lot of questions. Okay, why did you tool this, choose this tool versus that tool? All of those things, right? Skill and knowledge gaps. Then, for example, cultural resistance. As I said, right? Many people will say, no, no, the platform team cannot do it. I will do a better job of it. Adopting the platform team is too slow, right? They take too much time to develop a new feature. Let me just build it, then the whole control is with me. I will do whatever I want at any point of time, right? Executive sometimes does not see the value, because as I said, right, you cannot translate the value directly. Indirectly you can, right? Your developer experience should increase, your ability to go to market, right? Your change velocity frequency would increase, right? So, but at the same time there is some, and I see a few questions are coming, right? But I will cover a few part, and then I will very quickly go to those questions as well. Vendor lock-in is also some sort of a concern, right? Okay, I'm building this platform, let's say I'm using primarily Azure tools. Then what happens tomorrow if somebody, my CIO, decides to also enable Google? So how do I create an orchestrator or a platform level orchestrator that kind of um, works across? Is it worth the investment? So again, there are pain points, just like anything else in IT. There are things that people are trying to do. And if you see, just like the CNCF, right? I think some of you have seen that CNCF, all of the tooling, it kind of, you have to maximize your eyes and all of that, strain your eyes. This is the platform tooling landscape high level, right? There are so many options at the developer portal. So for example, Backstage is a one very well known. Version control, you have different options. Monitoring and logging, you have different options. So for example, if you want to set up a platform, technically speaking, you will have to stitch together one of each, one of this, and then kind of. So even the tooling is complicated, right? Should I build myself a platform with some of these open source or vendor specific tools, or should I go with some sort of a company like Humanitech or Port.io, which provides a platform as a consumable offering, who will just come in and set up a platform? Should I go with Backstage, for example, for my developer portal, or should I set up something on my own? So it in itself, platform engineering itself today is also becoming a very complex sort of a topic. And the most important thing with the platform is, and as I said, right, I lead this platform adoption function within the organization I belong. So is like, how are people using your platform? So if you see today, most of the people are, if you see 40%, let's say 35 to 40%, are basically driven by extrinsic push, often mandated. So unfortunately, the reality is that, are platforms really adding value, or are people just using them because somebody mandated you to use the platform and said, no, you cannot do anything else, you have to use the platform? So if anybody has watched Sam Newman's talk on habitable platforms, he talks about a platform which should not be mandated, which should be optional, and then see whether the people outside your group, right, is the developer community in the organization actually using your platform, right? Or is it like, because it's optional, they are doing something else? Then you understand your platform is not adding a lot of value, right? Because if you make it mandated, there is no more, let's say, incentive for the product managers within the platform to make a good product, right? Even if they make a very shitty product within the platform, then also everybody has to adopt because it's mandated. So there are a lot of challenges, is what I'm trying to say, even with platform engineering. So in this section one, as I said, that platform engineering as a trend, as an overall concept, is awesome, right? It's, as I said, Gartner is bullish in it. It's number 4, but it's still a relatively new concept, 4 to 5 years, and there is a lot of, let's say, different sort of options, or let's say different sort of thought process or philosophies on how a platform should look like, what a platform should do, what should a platform team do versus, let's say, business facing do, what is the scope. But at the end of the day, right, there needs to be some sort of a focused approach, right? Some sort of a way for you guys to start somewhere and then over time move on to the target state, right? So because you cannot ask for $100 million investment and say I will give a platform after 5 years, right? So there needs to be a way, a very sensible, well governed, industry standard sort of a way to move from, let's say, beginning to end, right, from level 0 to level 100. So this is what is the engineering maturity model concept, which is what I'm starting in section 2. So what is a maturity model? And again, you might have heard about this thing called maturity model because it's used in life in everywhere, right? For example, automobile maturity model, let's say for example supply chain maturity model. So maturity model is basically, you assess what is, you first try to understand what are some of the key criterias, right, which determines whether you're, let's say whatever you are trying to assess, what is the best thing looking like and what is the worst thing looking like, so to speak, right? So and then you go through a set of questions and try to understand where you are in that sort of the curve, right? So uh, let's say for example I'm trying to understand the gen AI maturity of my organization, how mature is my organization in adopting AI. So I will know how a good organization who has adopted everything looks like, right? I should have a view of how good looks like. I should have a set of questions that I can ask anybody to understand where am I in the sort of a workflow. And then finally what I will do is I will kind of tell, based on the maturity model, where am I and what do I need to do to move past the steps, right? So again, it's a very simple process, right? You first define the scope, right, of the assessment that you are trying to do. As I said, right, you can do maturity assessments for n number of things, right? There are industry standard maturity assessment frameworks for supply chain, for example, for healthcare industry, CMMI level 5 you might have heard, right? All of those things. So you first define the scope of the maturity assessment, then you select a maturity model, basically a set of questionnaires. In most cases you have to sometimes also provide proof with your answers. Then you assess your current maturity level based on that question. So I give you a set of 20 questions and I say, okay man, can you please fill this up? And then you say, okay, I have filled this up. Then I say, okay, based on your answers and the proof you have given, your maturity level today is out of 1 to 10, 5, right? So then I identify, okay, you are right now in 5, you need to move to 6. These are the things that you need to do. So identify the gaps, then develop a roadmap to move from 5 to 6, implement that roadmap, basically the actions in that roadmap, then again reassess to see have you actually moved from 5 to 6. So it's a continuous process, right? So you assess your maturity based on a questionnaire or some sort of a standard. You come up with your current maturity, then you see, okay, what do I need to do to move from my current maturity to the next maturity, and you kind of move on. So the CNCF platform working group, this is the group that I said, right, I'm also part of. They released the first version of the platform engineering maturity model. That's what they did, right? This was something in 2023 November-ish, right? And it's still, there is a very nice white paper. You can see this link, and you can go through the actual maturity white paper, which tries to address this question to an extent. So what they're saying again is, as I said, this is the white paper link, is they're saying that this is a tool that any organization in the world who wants to implement platform engineering, they will basically, and yes, I will share the link and I will answer most of those questions as well as soon as I go to the Q&A very quickly. So the platform engineering maturity model is basically nothing but, again, as I said, a set of questions, a set of approaches. So any organization today can go through that and see where they are in the journey. Are they mature enough? So let's say out of 1 to 100, I say they are at 25. And then it also contains, let's say, some guidance on how to move from 25 to 35. What does 35 look like? What does 45 look like? What does 55 look like? Right? So basically this will help every organization to understand how good platform engineering looks like, and then position your current organization against what good looks like, and then take action from there. So in the platform engineering maturity model, they have segregated the maturity into 4 steps. Maturity number 1, which is the lowest maturity, is provisional. Maturity number 2 is called operational, scalable, and optimizing. So basically, the person who is doing the worst in platform engineering, they are in the provisional, and the team who is doing the best is in optimizing. So these are the 4 I said, right? 1 to 100. So you can consider provisional as, let's say, 1 to 20, operational 20 to 50, scalable 50 to 80, optimizing 80 to 100 as a score. I'm just saying, right? Then what are the different aspects? So this is very important, right? Again, in maturity, whenever you come to a maturity of anything, right, you cannot just say, okay, this person is very mature. You can say, okay, this person is very mature when it comes to relationships, but a little bit immature when it comes to, let's say, spending money. So there are different dimensions, right? For everything there are different dimensions. So similarly, in this platform engineering maturity model, they have identified 5 dimensions: investment, adoption, interfaces, operations, and measurement. Okay, so these are the 5 dimensions. So essentially what will happen is when you will assess your platform, you might say, okay, based on the answers, my platform is provisional when it comes to investment, but is scalable when it comes to operations. So it's not like one score, it's like 5 different scores on 5 different dimensions. Each of the score is anything between provisional, operational, scalable, and optimizing. So what are the different aspects? So I said, right, there are 5 different dimensions. So the 5 different dimensions they are handling today is investment, adoption, interface, operation, and measurement. Investment is basically on the terms of how are you thinking about the platform as an investment. Do you allocate funds? Do you treat user platform as a product? Do you allocate funds with a roadmap in mind, or is it like an ad hoc investment, right? So something like that. Adoption is how do you track? How do you basically see? How do you know how is the rest of the organization using your platform? Do you track usage? Do you track daily active users? Do you have nice dashboards which show when a user who was using the platform suddenly stopped using the platform, as an example? Interfaces is how do users interact with your platform? Do you provide them a very nice self-service catalog, or do they need to raise a ticket? Do you have nice APIs, well documented APIs that anybody can integrate into their existing toolchain to consume your platform offering? Or do you have to rely on a separate DevOps engineer to do it manually? Operations is how do you manage the platform overall, right? For example, how do you publish the roadmap of the platform? Do you provide communication when a platform component is going to get decommissioned, right? Or how do you patch the platform? How do you keep on updating the platform? Many different aspects. And as I said, measurement is how do you get feedback on the platform, right? How do you learn how people are using the platform? Are they really using the platform in the correct way? Do you have an automated way of understanding, or do you send surveys? So there are different aspects. So these are just 5 different dimensions of looking at the overall maturity of the organization. So I will just take one example. And as I said, right, this white paper has a lot of example. So if I say talk about adoption, so a provisional platform, a platform whose maturity is just provisional, starting, adoption might be erratic. They might be like, okay, whoever is adopting, whoever is not adopting is not adopting. What can I do? Kind of an approach. The moment their maturity increases to operational, there might be some extrinsic push. What does that mean? That means the CIO or CTO is mandating all of the teams to use the platform. That is operational. So again, your maturity has increased from provisional to operational, and the type of adoption has changed from erratic to extrinsic push. Then once your maturity again increases from operational to scalable, from extrinsic push, it becomes an intrinsic pull. So your platform is now so mature that you really don't need to push from outside by word of mouth, or let's say by a developer liking a platform, talking to his friend on the phone and saying, man, this platform is awesome, you should also use it. So there is now an intrinsic pull. Developers are automatically coming and trying to consume your platform. To the last stage, which is optimizing, is participatory. Participatory means the rest of the organization is not just using your platform, they're also actively contributing to the platform. They're coming to the meetings and saying, okay, you need to do this. I need this. I need that. Can you do this? Can you not do that? Right? Can you please provide this offering to me? Okay, I wrote this code. Can you contribute it and make it as part of the platform? So just I took adoption as an example. As you can see, as your maturity increases, the way that dimension is measured, the way that dimension is operating within your platform engineering context is changing. Similarly, as I said, operations, right? Or for example, measurement, right? Let's take an example of measurement as the last example. So again, how are you measuring the interaction with your platform? Is it a very ad hoc? You are not really measuring. Or is it like a consistently you are collecting? You are at least collecting the data in some sort of a very consistent way. Then finally, you are kind of analyzing the data and also providing insights. So now I am at a stage where I am kind of saying, okay, for some reason in Germany, my users are not adopting the platform, but in France they are adopting. So that's sort of insight. Then you might go to the Germany team and say, guys, I am seeing you are not adopting the platform. Why? What is the reason for not adopting platform? Can I do something else, for example, right? And yes, we have some ideas. As I said, that I lead the platform adoption team in my organization. So that's what we mostly focus on, and I will share some thoughts at the end. And then finally, so again, the overall idea is very simple. In the interest of time now, I will move. So as you can see, over time, what will happen is for any of these dimensions, your maturity needs to kind of increase. But it will not happen just magically. You will also have to increase your funding to develop the platform. People will have to spend more time on your platform. Only then it will increase, right? It will not happen just by switching a button, right? You as a platform team will have to improve, right? You will have to work with your customers, understand what they need, improve your platform over and above what it is today, so that it moves. But the whole idea is you want to move somewhere, you want to measure where you are today, and then you want to move somewhere. So again, this also kind of shows a very nice thing, that as your maturity increases, see, your adoption kind of increases, but at some point, rather than pushing people to adopt your platform, once your platform is matured enough, then automatically people will kind of come to your platform, not because they are being mandated, but because they want to be on the platform, because that platform is actually reducing their cognitive load. So that's kind of like the break even point in my mind, right? Initially, when you build a platform, you might even have to mandate people to use that platform, right? Just to ensure they are using some of the stuff. But then you get the feedback, and then you make your platform better, more mature, and at some point of time, right, what happens is everybody automatically starts to adopt your platform. This is something very interesting, so this I wanted to show. So when the CNCF team released their platform engineering maturity model, Microsoft took that model and made it into an assessment that anybody in the world can do. So I will just show you that assessment, how it looks like. You see, this is the platform engineering assessment, right? So if you just click on start assessment, it will give you a set of questions across a different set of dimensions, right? So if you see, I have selected the assessment, and then see what is my interest. I want to establish a platform engineering product team. See, a lot of questions have now come. So now if I click on start, what will happen is I will get asked a lot of questions. So for example, does your organization have a dedicated platform engineering product team? I say yes. Then let's say the next question is, which of the following roles are included in your platform engineering product team? So again, what is this? This is Microsoft's way of taking the same maturity model, then asking a set of questions on that, based on that maturity model, and based on the answers to that question, it will give you your current maturity, the current maturity of your platform engineering function within your enterprise, and also give you recommendations on how to increase the maturity. So it's not like this is being done in isolation. As I said, right, Microsoft took this sort of a concept of platform engineering maturity, then made it as a platform engineering assessment tool. Perfect. So let me again move to this. Okay. So again, in the section 2, this is kind of the main section. What I said is that the whole concept of platform engineering, you cannot suddenly on day one you say, okay, I will do all of these things. It's not possible. So you have to start somewhere, but before doing, you have to first understand, okay, where am I in the journey? How matured is my current setup, right? Let's say I'm doing some sort of platform engineering, and whenever I show our platform to clients, right, so they say, guys, your platform is so mature, you guys are doing so many awesome things, I really don't know how to start. So I always say, start with a wiki page. A wiki page is also a platform. It's not a very mature platform, but it's a very good start. If you have a wiki page, just a very simple wiki which tells developers what to do, that in itself, in my mind, is a platform, right? At least it's a very good start. Then you obviously start taking them, making it self-service, automating all of that. But just a wiki page is also a platform, right? Nothing else, just a simple wiki page which tells a developer what to do. So basically, the platform engineering maturity model assesses the current maturity, and then you determine what is your current maturity, what do you need to do it, also to improve your maturity from A to B, from provisional to optimizing. Obviously there will be more investment and money needed, but the more mature the platform, the more organic the adoption will be. It's like kind of an exponential effect. Once you cross the threshold and your platform is mature, you will see you really don't have to work a lot hard, very hard. Automatically the rest of the organization will kind of flock to you. Oh, you, I heard you have this observability offering, can I use it? Okay, I heard you have this antivirus offering that works very well, can I just use it? Because nobody wants to do that stuff, right? The stuff that the platform engineering team is doing, not every single team wants to spend time, energy, money in doing that. Rather, they will be okay to use that stuff rather than build it themselves, kind of just consume it from the platform and use it in their overall bigger thing. With this, some closing thoughts. Very important to understand that the maturity model itself is not the end goal. It's just a way of analyzing where you are, what you need to do, is a guide. So it's not like, okay, this thing has written it, I have to follow it end to end. You can tailor it on your own based on the things that your business needs more, right? Those are the things that you should prioritize. You should wait in the assessment. You should kind of think about, okay, what is important for my organization. There could be an organization where self-service is more important, then there could be an organization where observability is more important, monitoring is more important, right? So you have to tailor it in a way based on what you want to do. This itself is not the goal, right? The goal is to assess the maturity and be better at platform engineering. This is just a method or a tool to do that. And a good platform takes investment and time. So if you see, 44% of the leading organizations had dedicated platform teams over 5 years. Dedicated platform teams. This is not a side job. For anybody who is taking it seriously, you have to have a dedicated platform team who is working at it full time, 100%. And as you can see, 44% of the leading organizations have invested more than 5 years of time in their platform teams. But you might say, okay, what did they get out of it? As I said, it is what the wait, because feedback is showing that it the leading adopters of platform engineering are 8 times more likely to release code into production in less than an hour compared with others. So at the end of the day, what do organizations want? They want to go from idea to business value, right, as soon as possible. So I have an idea. How can I go into the market and get money out of it? That's whole purpose of a capitalistic world, right? So how do we do that? We code it, right? Idea to code, code to deploy. So if I can deploy faster, I can generate value faster. Simple. That's why all of these Dora metrics like velocity, lead time, right? Why are people measuring that? Because going fast helps. If you can go fast without breaking things, that's the best thing you can do in an organization. So if you implement platform engineering, what we are saying is there is a chance that people who have adopted platform engineering in the correct way, they're the most mature. Let's say they're the optimizing, as I said in the model, they're 8 times more likely to release code into production in less than an hour. So that is the value of platform engineering. Obviously, there are many other metrics you can Google. I also have some I can share, which shows that platform engineering really works in market, in the industry. Many surveys, many assessments are saying that, but this is just one of them. So with this, I end this session. Right, as I said, the whole idea of this session was to introduce you to this concept. Again, I think you all were already introduced to the concept of platform engineering, which is a central platform team which builds technology assets for the rest of the organization. But I also introduced you to this concept of platform engineering maturity model, and that there is a way you can start small, and then over time you assess yourself, and then you see, okay, what is my gap from going from this maturity model, this maturity level to the next maturity level? How do I do it? And if you finally go and become an actual leader in implementing platform engineering in the perfect way, then you can see that there is a lot of value that the industry is seeing any organization will get out of this. So this is it, Kalla, from my end. I know I kind of consume most of the time, but I just wanted to check. I see some questions. Let me know how do you
Yes,
want to handle that.
we have a few questions already, guys. If you have any more questions, feel free to share them in the Q&A or in the chat, but we can start with some of them. The first one is, what's the job market for PE?
Yes. So I think there is a lot of even platform engineering org, right, have done a lot of service on that. At least I can tell you, as I showed you, right? I mean, every single firm today is kind of in this journey. At least everybody I talk to, they come to us and say, guys, you have done this, show me how to do it. That's my job, right? That's my day job. So I see there is a lot of value and potential in trying to do, but the good thing is it's not like you have to learn something very, very different. It's not like platform engineers have come from Mars, right? They're the same DevOps engineers. They know how to develop, let's say, for example, they know how to do subscripting. They know how to, let's say, do a little bit of DevOps, a little bit of coding. So the same sort of people who earlier used to do, let's say, DevOps can also be a platform engineer. right? It's just a way where you are situated, right? And the good thing, as I said, right, obviously there are some nuances. The more you work with platform engineering, you try to you kind of get to understand. But that's in anything, right? If there is a DevOps engineer who is working in the healthcare industry, even though he's not doing healthcare himself, he kind of starts understanding, right, how that industry works, and every single thing has its own nuance. So I'm not saying a DevOps engineer is equivalent to a platform engineer, but it's like a superset of that to some extent, right? Will someone just entering the job market prepare for? Okay, I see another question also, kind of related. As I said, right, I mean, there is obviously many things. For example, platformengineering.org themselves have a platform engineering university also, right? Which is something that you can follow. There are courses, many learning materials there. The CNCF platform maturity model. Only thing I will say, guys, is that it's not a different set altogether. The same things that you know, a little bit of coding, a little bit of scripting, a little bit of understanding of, let's say, how source control work, how CI/CD works, let's say how integrations work, how API work. All of that will help you. There is no secret bullet. I will say that okay, you learn these two things and you will become a platform engineer tomorrow. But it's kind of the same sort of thing that a DevOps engineer does, a little bit more elevated maybe, and you have to think a little bit more holistically. Only thing is you're building an internal platform. Your customer is a another developer or another DevOps engineer. That is the difference.
Thank you. The next question is, can you tell me about agent platform engineering, such as self-service workflow for Terraform?
See, again, there is like see self-services, so self-serviceable workflow for Terraform is even without using AI. I expect you're talking about using AI agents in platform engineering. See, there are two concepts here. So first of all, as the platform, you can enable the rest of the organization to build AI agents using your platform. That can be as simple as creating an AI agent starter kit, right? Or providing an offering to give to generate synthetic data. So that is one part of the picture. The one part of the picture is I am using the platform as a base, and I'm helping people build agentic AI applications for businesses by using the platform. That is just like any other application. You are now enabling them to build Gen AI or agentic AI application. That is one part. The other part is how you are infusing agentic AI into the platform. That is the second part, right? That is still more, let's say, nuanced, and we still need to understand how to do that. You can infuse it in many different places, in my mind, right? So for example, today, let's say in the platform thing, as I said, right, let's say for example, there are many people who are one of the challenges with most of the platforms is, right, how do you scale to the demand of the customer? Because customer is always demanding more and more and more things, right? So there is this concept of an inner source approach. So what happens in an inner source approach is the rest of the organization can also build something if the platform doesn't support it today. So let's say somebody needs a feature X, my platform doesn't support it, they build it, and then I kind of include it into my platform. This is called platform convergence. Actually, I'm giving a talk on this in platform con, how platform convergence works, what it means, and all of that. So what you can think is, let's say, can an AI agent scan my enterprise asset repository and determine what are some of the assets already built within the enterprise that might be a good fit for my platform? So in this way, you are infusing AI agents or agentic AI into your whole platform engineering ecosystem. There can be different ways, I'm just saying. But as I said, it's very important to distinguish two things: using agentic AI or agents within the platform to build the platform to make the platform better, versus using the platform as a base to build AI agents that finally your customers use. So these are two different things.
Thank you. There's one that is a bit connected to that first question. Building on that, could you talk about how agent-based platform engineering is evolving, especially with tools like Villa, where developers can request infrastructure using natural language? Does this level of automation change the role of traditional DevOps?
Yes. So see, I mean, what I will say here is that this is also, for example, Microsoft themselves has now an Azure Copilot. So I will give an example. So when I joined the industry after 2 to 3 years, I started working on .NET applications as well, and .NET applications had the backend with SQL. So we used to run some very big SQL stored procedures, and let's say something used to break and is very slow. We used to do a lot of debugging. So I was seeing a video on Azure Copilot for SQL, and it's like the database is slow. You just ask a question and say, okay, why is my database slow? In the backend, it is doing all of the analytics, seeing which index is slow, how to rebuild index. It is doing all of that. It is giving you the hypothesis, giving you all of the data, and then also giving you command, an actual command that you can just run to basically fix that issue. So that is the level that has gone. So I think it is not only about does, in my mind, everybody's job at some level is at a little bit of a risk. So how I think of it is that how can I elevate my whole job profile so that I become more strategic. That's how I think. Again, I'm not saying everybody will have that, let's say, freedom or that sort of a position in their company to do that, but luckily in my company I have still have that sort of a freedom to do that. So I'm thinking that, okay, can I now abstract my or elevate my work profile to a level that I don't need to think about whether an AI agent will, let's say, kind of get my job. Rather, I might think, okay, how can I orchestrate AI agents to get other people's jobs? As an example, I'm saying, right? So two examples. So obviously we don't want to get anybody's job, but I'm just saying, as an example, is that how can we elevate ourselves? Obviously, if you have an AI agent, so for example, I was seeing something, somebody put a architecture diagram, just an architecture diagram, right? And then there is some new nice tools. They will read your architecture diagram, understand the architecture diagram, create the whole Terraform script, and if you just click on a button, it will deploy that script as well. This used to take 3 to 4 DevOps engineers, let's say 1 week of effort, in any traditional enterprise. Now you just have one thing. Again, I mean, at least I don't, all of these this sort of tools that I have experimented with, they are not perfect. So we will still have some human in the loop. But yes, I feel over time we will see a decrease in the number of people, and that's why you see so many of these companies are firing also, right? Which is very true. That's why I'm saying I think the only way to secure our jobs is if we can elevate our work profile. Again, it's much more complicated than me just saying it, but that is the reality of the game, right? We need to elevate our profile to a level so that all of these things get a level below us, right? We don't discuss those things, we discuss something else, so to speak. Okay, so I
Thank
see
you.
a lot of more
Yeah, we
questions
have
here.
more questions here. Um, do you have any
Yeah.
ideas on how to improve adoption?
Yes, there is, again, as I said, right, I can just give a talk on that as well because I lead the platform adoption team. So one of the things, very very simple things, for example, is documenting the value proposition of the platform, right? That itself is very important, right? Number one. Number two actually is that setting up a separate team focused on this topic. It cannot be the side job of a product team who is building the platform. There has to be a dedicated, let's say, pre-sales team, for example, for platform, who goes out to people, communicate to people, evangelist, kind of like the developer advocate role that you see many of the companies have now, right? Developer advocate for Snowflake. What are they doing? They're going and talking to developers on Snowflake. Essentially, so you need a developer advocate even for your internal profile, in internal platform, so to speak, right? So those kind of things. Then, for example, reviewing some of your bigger customers. So let's say, for example, in every single organization there are some very very mature teams, right? So seeing how they work, going through them and talking to them, saying, okay, what can you use, what can you know, having regular review sessions, kind of aligning your roadmap with their roadmap. There is a number of things that you can do to improve your adoption. Obviously, as I said, measuring the adoption is also important, because if you don't measure the adoption, you will never know it has improved or not. So how many daily active users you are, right? What is the adoption percentage? What is the billing, right? What is the chargeback? Many many things that you can do actually to see. I mean, again, as I said, right, I mean, I can speak for 1 hour just on that. But measure the adoption of your platform, number one. Ensure that your platform has a very well documented value proposition, number two. Number three, have a separate dedicated team of platform advocates or platform consultants who talk to consumers, potential consumers, help them understand the value of the platform, help understand their question, align where the platform, kind of like solution architects, pre-sell solution architect, but the only difference is rather than solutioning with Azure, you're solutioning with the platform, so to speak.
Mhm. Thank you. How would you objectively measure the success of a platform?
See, again, one of the very easy ones is the revenue that the platform is generating. See, nothing is free, right? We are investing time, effort, and money in the platform. So most of the platforms, just like everything else, will have some sort of a chargeback mechanism as well, right? So let's say I am consuming the antivirus offering from the platform. So then I will have to give some sort of a chargeback, right? Let's say I will say, okay, for every single API call, I will charge you $1. So revenue is a very, very good identifier. If my revenue is increasing, if my platform becomes self-service, for example, then that's the best thing, right? That I don't need any more investment. I can just keep on. That is number one, which is like your, let's say, for example, uh, the actual revenue. Then, as I said, the adoption, right? The consumption, how many API hits are happening in the platform. The good thing is that you don't really need to reinvent all of these metrics for a platform. The moment you think that your platform is a product, every single thing that you'd have done to measure the success of your product, you can do with your platform. So, how do you measure the success of a product? You tell me. So, let's say, how do we measure the success of a product like YouTube? How many times people are logging into YouTube? What is the revenue that YouTube is generating? What is the retention period? All of those product management concepts that you use to measure the success of a product, you can now start using it to measure the success of your platform. A little bit nuanced maybe, but that is what we also do. So as I said, on the top of my head, revenue, consumption. If your consumption is good, if the API calls are increasing, that means and this thing is retention, for example, loyalty of the users, right? For example, how long does a developer spend in your platform? Kind of like a time, is it decreasing, is it increasing? Those kind of things basically. And obviously, you can do the standard things of customer satisfaction survey, NPS survey, all of that you can do.
Okay, I see one here. It says, what would you say, which is the most used IDP currently?
I think I just recently read a blog, right? And somebody was saying, I think Backstage has 72% of the market. Right? Again, I don't think of Backstage as an internal developer platform. I think of more as an internal developer portal, and it has different add-ons to make the whole platform thing work. But uh, as I said, right, I think that is the most thing. Then there are many custom solutions. I think there was a very nice blog. I will try to find it if I can, and you can reach out to me. I can share it with you. That kind of actually addressed it based on actual data. I have not done that analysis myself, to be very fair. But as I think Backstage is the clear winner in the market right now.
Amazing. Any recommendations on how to elevate the profile of as a developer engineer?
See, again, as I said, right, it's not a very simple thing. It's a nuanced thing, right? You have to understand yourself a little bit also. So start thinking of things holistically. So let's say you're a DevOps engineer. What are you doing? Today somebody is asking you, okay, I need a VM. You are writing some Terraform script and creating the VM. Maybe that's what you're doing. So now starting, okay, why do you need the VM? What is the rest of the thing? What are you integrating with? Okay, why are you using a VM? Why are you not using a Kubernetes service, for example, right? Kind of elevating yourself to some sort of a architecture sort of a thing, right? So it is a little bit more complicated for an agent to build a full-fledged architecture than, let's say, build a script, right, or build some sort of code. So again, it's you have to first just like any other maturity model, just like I was explaining the maturity model of a platform, right? Here also it's a maturity model of the individual. So how do you elevate yourself step by step? So already you are doing the correct thing. You're attending webinars like this is kind of so for example, I attend a lot of webinars, I speak on a lot of webinars, right? So over time you have to kind of think how I can elevate my, so today I'm doing this XYZ thing. What is the next thing? I'm a DevOps engineer. Okay, how can I become a cloud architect? Okay, I'm a cloud architect. How can I become an IT/enterprise architect? Okay, I'm an enterprise architect now. Okay, now how do I think of becoming a CIO? So the more strategic your role is, the more complicated, the more integrated with the whole ecosystem your role is. The more isolated, or let's say one sort of a function your role is, right? The more easy it will be for any automation to replace your role. the more integrated into the business fabric, the whole fabric of the ecosystem your role is. So in a way, what I was telling to somebody is that the more difficult it is to explain your role to anybody, the safer your job is. Because if you cannot describe it to anybody else, the agent will also not be able to understand what your job is, right? In a light note. So that's so if you can explain your job in one way, one line, let's say, okay, I build VMs, I get an IAD and I just write some Terraform. Yeah, maybe an agent will be able to do it. But if you are like a strategic thinker, you are, let's say, an IT strategist or a platform strategist or a digital strategist, you are doing n number of things, right? Then it's very complicated for, let's say, an agent or something like that to mimic it.
Great. Thank you so much, Turja. Do we have any more questions, guys? Let's give it a minute. Okay, there is one. It says, I've noticed that while DevX is gaining traction as a concept, it still doesn't seem to be prioritized deeply, especially when it comes to telemetry or platform tooling. From your experience, why do you think developer experience often gets overlooked in platform strategy conversations, even though it directly impacts adoption and productivity?
You see, again, as I say, if anybody is not prioritizing developer experience, they are basically positioning their platform for failure. Simple, right? So any enterprise which is not providing, see, again, as I said, right, it's all about. So first of all, it's complicated to measure developer productivity. Very complicated. Some people will say, okay, the number of lines of code you have written. Some people will say, let's say, the number of features you have solved, right? So developer productivity is a very, very complex. There is so much research that is done by that lady who wrote the book Accelerate, right? It's very recently she published a new framework for measuring developer productivity called SPACE, SPAC. You might Google search on it. People used to either measure DORA metrics, right? That people said, no, that's not enough. Now I need space. So there's a lot of stuff, right? Google has something called health or something, HELTH. So first of all, it's itself a very complicated thing to measure it. Number one. Secondly, because it's so complicated, it's also very complicated to directly correlate it also to business productivity. So developer product, because at the end of the day, right, what does CEOs care? Right? They care about the dollar figure. So how do you tell if this developer goes? So let's say I ask you something. Like let's say tomorrow there is a developer in your company. Let's say the developer leaves the company. Can you give a dollar figure on what is the loss that is going to be on on that company? Very, very difficult. You can qualitatively say, yeah, that developer was a very, very good developer. If he leaves, I will have a lot of problems. But what is the quantitative value? Very complicated sort of a question. But again, as I said, right, I think more and more people are understanding that developers are important, right? I think they already understand, but this whole concept of developer health, developer productivity, developer experience is important. Even more now, so there is a new concept also, is developer experience and then agent experience. So that is another concept. I recently gave a talk on how you should start thinking about agent experience. But again, coming to your question of developer experience, I really don't know if somebody is not prioritizing it. Maybe it's because it's very complicated to correlate it with the business dollar value, but they should, right? At least qualitatively. And I said some of the DORA metrics, right? The kind of happens. So let's say, for example, there are studies being done, and they are saying that, okay, guys, teams who have adopted a platform are deploying, let's say, 90% faster or 90% more frequently than teams which don't have a platform. So that is the first analysis you need to do. Then what you need to do is teams who are developing or deploying faster are generating more revenue. Once you can kind of link all of those metrics, that when the CEO will kind of wake up. That's this concept that Gregor Hoof has called riding the IT engine elevator. You might have read his book called Architect Elevator or something. The book is very nice book. So he's saying you need to ride the elevator from the engine room, which is the base, to the CEO, because CEOs don't understand all of this. If you say that the cognitive load on the developer is high, CEOs say, tell me, what does that mean? Does that mean I will lose $10 million of business? So once you can relate all of those metrics, which is very complicated also, I'm not saying this is very simple, but only when you can go to that level, that's when I think people will start taking some of these things seriously. But I think they are taking it seriously also today. I don't think anybody says today that developer experience is not important, but yeah, how much value they give it is kind of nuanced based on an enterprise.